Jeez. Last time it just cut off for like no reason that I could tell. Because my phone is not full now. It should have filmed just fine. Didn't get a call. I think this is also from Little Beaver Town, but I can't be sure. Yeah, when you totally forget what something's for, then it ceases to be special, and I feel okay about getting rid of things at that point. I'll go through these, I'm sure. Let's look at some books. I have some really old paperbacks here. I Leap Over the Wall. Yeah, this is a gummy tag on it. Yeah. The best-selling story of a nun who returned to the world after 28 years in a convent. I Leap Over the Wall is a good title. Reminds me of I Killed the Monster from Daniel Johnston. It's a great song. Return to the world. I think this is another book that was trashed by its tag. Got this one from Joy Junction. Added some new stuff to the walls. I'm going to just keep adding forever. I want to put billowy silks on the ceilings and like warmer lights around the house and more rugs and just make it perfect over time. Another thing I got from my older sister was just, she always said she just wanted a house with a lot of blank walls so she could put bookcases up in art. It always stayed with me. In fact, an earlier version of this channel that I tried filming a couple years ago, I called A Home Full of Books and Art. And I ended up deleting all of those. This looks intriguing, but a 1961 edition of a 1950 book, but it feels fragile. Tag damage. Conrad Richter. This was on the mainstream paperback shelf, but I realized it was too old and brittle. This is literally a 1937 paperback. That's very unusual. Speaking of the paperback project, I mean, this is the roots of paperbacks. Conrad Richter is a great, sometimes New Mexico writer. Neglected these days. I'd actually like to read this book, but I probably shouldn't read this copy. It'll trash it. Dramatic story of the Southwest. Transformed a New Mexican wilderness into a cattle ranch bigger than Massachusetts. It could be based on a number of people. Richter was such a good researcher. I've really spent a lot of time thinking about him and studying him. His biography was a great book. And I got to show his biographer all over the old Cedar Crest Resort with its owners, where Richter had stayed. And I got to know Harvina Richter, his daughter. And because of her, I got this old out-of-print Conrad Richter essay that he wrote about the death of Carl Taylor in 1936 that I quote in my writings about him, because Conrad Richter was a good friend of Carl Taylor. And he wrote a really disturbing description of seeing his friend's brains on the floor. Yikes. So look at this. Pocketbooks are carefully selected from the list of all leading publishers. They bring you the world's best reading in editions of highest quality at the lowest possible price. I really am coming to think more and more lately that the paperback book, the trade-sized paperback book, might be the apotheosis of books. Because I think something that makes a book really great is its ability to be read and carried around and incorporated into people's actual lives. You know, it symbolizes something that books have like fused with us and who we are, and that they're not just the stuff of libraries and research days. You know, it's kind of weird that they're mostly like beach reads these days if you see them, airport reads. But I love a paperback. Bring them back. A nonfiction paperback, beautiful. I'd like to get some like glass case or something that I could hang on a wall to display some of these beautiful books. They really have like shouldn't be read. They'll just be damaged. I mean, I hate to say it, but it looks okay. I like books about things like that. Things. Where do things come from? Where do the rooms of your house come from? Basic stuff. I go through phases in my life where How Men Fought to Live Upon the Earth is a pretty good subtitle, too. Oh, and it's Companion to the Golden Bough. Although a more readable one, says the Cleveland Press. Great cover. I'm entranced. Wow, this is like classic noir right here. And by the author of Lost Horizon. We Are Not Alone. This was on the paperback shelf too, but it's just too fragile and old. It's really more of an objet d'art. I sure like Lost Horizon though. That's a beautiful book. This is a 1951 edition of a 1936 and 7 book. This Avon book contains the entire text as published in the original edition, complete number. Very cool. This came in plastic when I got it, but I'm like, I don't want to keep plastic on it all the time. Oh, the spine is great too. The story of a man who dared challenge the moral hypocrisy of his town. One of the finest of Hilton's already classic novels. That's cool. He wrote Goodbye, Mr. Chips too. I didn't know that. This book is really old, and I bought it. It's a bound essay, The Courage of Ignorance by William Lyon Phelps. One day, my friend Danny and I were at the library in Soldotna, Alaska. A library named after my friend Pat Carver's grandmother, by the way, Joyce K. Carver, woman who was murdered when mistaken for somebody else. Went to school with her grandson. Anyway, one day Danny and I were at this library, and they said, "Do you know that we have a bookstore in the basement?" And I'm like, "I've been going there for a year. I had no idea." And they let us go down to the basement, and there was this like huge, just kind of casual book sale going on. And I bought this. It's a 1933 book. Greet the Unseen with a Cheer, Browning. Yeah, it's basically just saying, like, you know, it's beautiful to take risks and not know everything that's going to happen. And it gives anecdotes that are outdated. Like, it talks about how, like, this South Seas people can be stabbed in the side and they don't die. Like, that's okay. All right, you're just repeating folklore here. But I read this, and I do remember this, and it stayed with me. And that whole day, and all the books I got, and my friend Danny says the same thing about the books he got that day. They like continued to influence us and stayed with us. And we need to glue up this binding a little bit. I'm going to do that. But gotta love a nice old book, and I don't know. This actually is interesting and has something to say. Essays are a cool form. I kind of wish they were a more common thing. Like they kind of are, but they live in this trite new world or something. Just got this one today. Free box, stamped it all over. I mean, what's so stupid is they stamped it on it. You think this is going to stop somebody from selling this in the future if they want to? If it was a valuable commodity, always free, never for sale. Like, oh, sorry. Like you can't just make a law about what happens to books in the future after they leave your hands. You have a control issue. Little free library. They've got to know that you can't buy it. It's just from the free box. It was from our free box. The Man from Glen. I don't know anything about this, but it's a beautifully designed book. I picked it out before I saw the stamps. I think I would have gotten it anyway because it's early 1900s. And that's just really cool. 1901. Okay, yeah, you got to snatch that kind of stuff up. Oh, it's about Canadian history. Interesting. This might be some pro-colonization thing. But it might be a story worth preserving. Interesting. 1901. Crazy. This book is 124 years old that I'm holding right now. It's as old as your grandpappy. This was hanging on my wall for a long time. It was part of a long series. His words, like so many nimble servitors, drip about him at command. So this was wall art for a long time. Milton, lesson 4. It's a good idea having like little booklets of the month, subscription services. Probably bring back some hipstery version of that. I'm sure it exists already. This might go back on the wall. I mean, it's not particularly striking, but I like the quote. This is like so cool. I can't believe I own this. I feel like I should save this for if I ever meet like some really cool existentialist or something. Because this would blow anybody's mind to get. Oh, it's not Sartre. It's about Sartre. It's still cool. Literature of the Graveyard, an early monograph on Sartre. That's great. 1948. Heck yeah. This was on the on another shelf, and I moved it to protect it. Literature of the Graveyard. That's so good. Did I use that in my book title essay? I wrote an essay that was all book titles. Close to 1,000. And I literally arranged the books on the shelves so you could like literally read the bookcase and read the essay. It'll be a chapter of book 2. And incorporate photographs of the shelves. How to know the minerals and rocks. Another great premise. Maybe a book that should be Mod Podged and put on the wall. Or maybe before that I should frame some of these colored pictures. Oh, book, you're going to be destroyed, maybe. Maybe I'll just keep you around a little longer and tape you up a bit. Yeah, let's do that. 50 cents. How cool would that have been to just take you 2 quarters? Go get yourself a book. Late 50s. This little book here has lived through some things, experienced some things. Though in the book equivalent of the movie Toy Story, this book rules all over the books and is very cruel. The character rarely speaks, and when it does, it's with this face. Exploring nature's treasure chest. How to know the minerals and rocks. Hey, this is a novel. But then I'm realizing this is just a really old book section. There could be all kinds of stuff here. Colette. This was from a free pile. Look at that, a 1933 book plate. True Ephemera. Casebook of Love by Colette. Is this like genre? Like romance or erotica or something? Huh. 1933. That's wild. It's weird when really old books end up in free piles. I'm like, isn't this worth something? Digging these fonts. There was once an old woman who every time she went to confession told of a sin of the flesh that she had committed many years before. Finally, her confessor remonstratingly told her it was so long ago that she should forget it. Yes, said she, I know it was a long time ago, but I love to talk about it. Oh, this is an intro. Oh, maybe this is a racy book. That was my boomer mother's word, racy. Is it racy? Up there's some old books, some old antique books from the shelf. Let's look at some more. Okay, this book has the best title of any book I own. Buddy and His Chums. I've heard, yeah. I always sing it as to the tune of Benny and the Jets. Buddy and His Chums. There's apparently a whole series of Buddy books. This guy wrote Uncle Wiggily. That was another old book we had kicking around. Maybe it's still here. Oh, Tom, it is an aeroplane, and it's falling down right in the lots back here. Come on, quick. Buddy and His Chums. See page 155. Whoa. Buddy and His Chums, or A Boy's Queer Search. Wow. By Howard R. Garris, author of Buddy on the Farm, Buddy at Rainbow Lake, the Curly Top books, the Uncle Wiggily books, etc. Illustrated. Couples and Leon Company. Couples, that's a fun word. New York. The Buddy Books by Howard R. Garris. 12 MO cloth illustrated. Buddy on the Farm, or A Boy and His Prized Pumpkins. Buddy in School, or A Boy and His Dog. Buddy in His Winter Fun, or A Boy in a Snow Camp. Buddy at Rainbow Lake, or A Boy in His Boat. Buddy and His Chum, or A Boy's Queer Search. Is it chum or chums? Because the cover says chums, plural. Here it says chum, singular. I think that list messed it up. Do what I say or else. Aunt Mary's Letter, Brick and the Cat, The Hand Organ Man, A Missing Monkey, A Queer Search, Tony's Reward, In the Night, At the Police Station, Fire Alarm, Two Lost Boys, Aunt Mary's Surprise, In the Zoo, On the Elephant, The Falling Airplane, A Wonderful Change, Over the Jungle Animals, Hooks and Lanes, The Old Man, The Capture of Tala. Maybe it is chum singular. I am so confused. Buddy and His Chum, Chapter 1. I'm sure it was chums, right? What? What is happening? Buddy, you've already started messing with my mind. Buddy, is that a fire behind you or a tree? I think it's a fire. What have you been doing, buddy? My son literally read this when he was little. was like, what happens? He told me the whole premise. He ditches school and he goes to go skating, but his skates break or something. I remember reading an essay by George Orwell in his nonfiction writings that was about these books about a little boy like this that's always up to trouble or something. Apparently that was a popular thing, like adventure magazines for young men, boys, back in the day. Buddy and his Chums. You just don't get rid of a book called Buddy and His Chums. When you meet a book called Buddy and His Chums, you know you're going to be together forever. Because that's the kind of book you can't get rid of. I guess if someone offered me a ton of money, I'd have to be like, whoa, okay. It'd have to be that kind of an amount. Because I feel like Buddy and His Chums is just always going to be in my life. Because it's called Buddy and His Chums. Does this one deserve to be here? Let's see. Devils, Drugs, and Doctors. Haggard, Harper and Row. Let's see how old it is. Cut it out with the Roman numeral dates. These are impossible. Let's see. 1939. Okay, so maybe it is old. Is that right? Did I get the name right? I wonder what this is about. Medicine, knowledge. Obstetrical chair in use. Ceremonial purification after childbirth among the Siamese. Tying a victim for the stappato. Some nastiness on this book. Burying the plague victims. Man, this has some great woodcuts and stuff. I guess it's old. It just doesn't feel old to me. The boards feel new. I don't know. Maybe it's old, but it was handed through a portal, so it's like basically new. Keeping track of all the portal transactions. Oh, yeah. Handbook of Composition. I was collecting antique books about grammar and writing for a long time. And the best of them I kept collecting and didn't get rid of. The coolest, best condition, the most interesting, most representative of their time. This is a 1907 book. That's crazy. I should erase old prices. I mean, it's kind of interesting. It becomes part of the provenance of the book, but I don't want it to cheapen it. This is still a really cool antique book. Oh, that's why it was cheap. Water damage, curse it all. Still, Handbook of Composition, Compendium of Rules. Regarding good English grammar, sentence structure, paragraphing, manuscript arrangement, punctuation, spelling, essay writing, letter writing. The kind of stuff everyone needs to hear. By Edwin C. Woolley, Ph.D. University of Wisconsin. Cool. 1907, what? For a while I was writing a work, and I really wanted it to be in like an old-timey voice, and so I wanted one character in particular to speak as if educated really strictly in old-timey grammar. So that's when I was dabbling in fiction. And, I'm hardly dabbling. It was a long time. I'm going to take these out, but I think these were for 63. A participle should not introduce a sentence or clause unless it logically modifies the subject of the sentence or clause. Wrong. Having come of age, I took my son into partnership with me. Wrong. There we landed, and having eaten our lunch, the steamboat departed. Something to think about. Be especially careful to place the adverbs only, merely, just, almost, ever, hardly, scarcely, quite, nearly next to the words they modify, not elsewhere. Maybe I will keep these notes in here. Infinitives. What did I say about that? No, I took the notes out. It's nicer without them. Here's another one of my old writing books. I got Precise Writing for American Schools. Boston, Little Brown and Company, 1926. Atlantic Monthly Publications. Monthly Press, New York Publication. 1924. Yeah, old books are cool, and old books are on a theme. That's good stuff. You might actually want to look at them sometime, read them even. You might be the only one reading them. One time I was in an antique mall, and they had a really weird book that H.G. Wells or somebody wrote on, like, his spiritual beliefs or something. And I'm like, I'm just going to read this book that nobody else is reading. Here's a tree grows in Brooklyn. It's been glued up a little bit, but. Jewel from Mother. Happy birthday, May 24th, 1944. Wow. I love this book so much. And, I have to own an early edition of it. It's just so good. One of my favorite novels, but that would not be the copy I would read. Oh, this is very cool. Our English, Book 2, State of Kansas. This was from a free pile at a coffee shop that I don't think exists anymore. This old... If this book is caught running down the road and it's just something Kansas... Donald Smith. If this book is caught running down the road, how something and send it to Great Minnehaha, Kansas, Donald Smith. Whoa. Haha. Look at this. No under God. That is fascinating. This is before the witch hunts, the anti-communist purges, and I'm so patriotic. This is how you can hear it in the movie. What's it called? The Bells of St. Mary. Kids all at this Catholic school all say the Pledge of Allegiance without the under God. It's more inclusive to not have the under God in it. I wish that was gone. And I don't know. I guess it's not the worst ritual. It doesn't bother me like it used to. I mean, having a cohesive national identity is not like an evil thought. Most countries do. But this is so what year is it? 1928. That's crazy. This would have been in schools 100 years ago. Almost. Like this exact copy. State of Kansas, official. This could probably really help someone's dissertation. Anyone writing something about education in Kansas? Yeah, and I have too many of these for the space that I've allotted to them. I do want to sell some. So if anybody, what if I unleash an ancient plague? Because some of these books have never been opened. The Long Portage. Harold Bindloss. Bind Loss. Maybe he was a popular writer at the time. All day long they paddled up the gleaming lake. The Long Portage. Is this like early travel writing? Travel adventure? 1912. The Pioneer. Published in England under the title The Pioneer. The Gladwine Expedition. Millicent Gladwin. Gladwin receives a shock. Mrs. Gladwin's appeal. Gladwin surrenders. Gladwin gains a point. Mrs. Gladwin's temptation. September 1912. Crazy. No, I guess it's like a novel, but maybe it's a historical novel, an account of something true. Vernon Lyle was fishing with a determination that did not spring altogether from love of the sport. Pretty cool. 1912 is old to me. It's 113 years ago. This is crazy to own. That book collector that I mentioned in a previous video that had all these books from the 1500s, he kind of turned his nose up at the condition of all my old books, but I still think they're really cool. Not everything old is in perfect condition. These things are legit. These are port keys to the past. These are, agents of the collapse of time. Look at this Indiana Township Library. And look at this. Sometimes I'll just get these books out wherever I've lived in the last 20 years and just show them to people. Everyone thinks it's cool to see really old books. American Institutions. Wow, that font is great. American Institutions Under Influence. Alexis de Tocqueville, very famous writer. Oh, look, this is 1856. This book is so old. Entered according to Act of Congress in the year 1851 by A.S. Barnes & Co. Wow. Wow. Look at the edge, it's all dyed. Oh, here's a leaf I pressed in there a long time ago. Let's take that out. Those could be framed once I clean those up. 1851. How freaking old is that? Someone do the math. So tactile and cool. Indiana Township Library. How do they do that? They have a tool for that. Wow. So it's 174 years old, this book. That is so crazy. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love that I've ever gotten to interact with such an old book. And that it's by de Tocqueville is so cool. It feels so good to like in the hand. Oh, old book. Hello. 175 years. This book was around when the Civil War was happening. This book was probably watching conditions heat up for about 10 years before the Civil War happened. What? All kinds of people. I wonder if, like, Indiana Township Library. I bet you could find some this or that famous person that crossed paths with that library and is part of its records that might have checked this book out and read it. Perhaps old Mr. Lincoln. It does smell all right. It smells wood-like. This is one of the coolest parts. The Indiana Township Library. It's the library rules. The library is in charge of the trustees of the township who are accountable for the preservation of the same. They may adapt rules and these are 175 four-year-old rules. Incredible. Look at the inked-in days. 60 and 5. Ugh. I would sell it, but I will if anyone makes a bid on it. However, or an offer on it. Whatever. You know what I mean? But this is genuinely an object of value. Would have benefited me a number of times to sell it, and I've not been able to, but it is an object of value. Maybe it's just that ugly spine bit there that turns people away. But 174 years old. It's crazy. That's to me, like when a historical object lasts that long, it kind of has a magic. It's from another time. Oh, this one I actually want to read. This is like literally a subject I'm fascinated by. American literature with readings. Peace. After reading that Moses Coit Tyler History of American Literature Before the Revolution, I was like, this is a subject I'm into now. It made me the most patriotic I'd ever been just for like the written art of a place. Stairway in the Boston Public Library. Oh, this is a 1915 book. To William Allen Wilbur, scholar, teacher, friend. One day we'll all be distant, faraway names to the world. This book is the outcome of personal experience with the problem of teaching literature to young people. I bet this book is great. I might actually read this. Once in a while I just risk it, but I just got to be really careful when I read old books. Oh my gosh, Poets of the Confederacy. Yikes. You know what? You really don't know what you'll get in really old books. TBH. Unity of the Poetry. Translation of Homer. Poets of the Confederacy. That's the first thing it opened to. A bunch of rhyming doggerel. Emerson, Hawthorne, Edgar Allan Poe. James Fenimore Cooper. I said in a previous video, oh, Walt Whitman. That's so great. Hey, what's up, dude? Facsimile of Emerson's manuscript. Cool. Well, I do love old stuff. It's got like a stamped, oh, look at that. Contract price, $127. Exchange price, 66 cents. The price marked here on is fixed by the state, and any deviation, therefore, should be reported to the state superintendent of public instruction. What? What's going on in 1915? I think I just read something people from our time aren't supposed to read. That's from another age. No, but sometimes I get that feeling from history. Like, whoa, you just access something other timely. Yeah, it's fun to look at American literature as a big picture, too. It's kind of a distant reading method. I'm sure I got this because my younger sibling lived in Uganda. And the author of Story of Stanley, missionary hero of Uganda. He died in 1890. Published by the Sunday Hill Union, 5759 Ludgate Hill, London. You see, Can't really find a year on this thing. But I'm getting late 1800s vibes from it. If he died in 1890, I bet this came out between 1890 and 1900. Look at that. Introduction, dated 1893. I was right. Yeah, dude, it was obvious. That's a good way to organize your chapters. Birthplace, character of his father, early education, death of his mother, conversion. Good beginning. Everything is so cyclical. I think we've gone back to this a little bit. Now as everything's broken down and synopsized and abstracted. Removal to Edinburgh in Germany. Step up the ladder. A volunteer from Madagascar. Cool. An 1893 book. That's so cool. See, this is what, oh my gosh. This is what a book was like in 1893. 132 years ago. Wild. I always meant to give this to this woman I met named Kate, who was married to my second wife's drummer, who's like a serial killer expert. I think she has a Leopold and Loeb tattoo. Maybe I shouldn't give her this book. Maybe I should not encourage anybody to be that into killers. But they were real nasty, and their crime was real nasty. And they kind of took a whole Raskolnikov defense. But what a subject matter. The amazing crime and trial of Leopold and Loeb. Maureen McKernan with introduction by Clarence Darrow, the famous lawyer. Plymouth Coast Press. Wow. The amazing crime and trial of Leopold and Loeb. McKernan. 1388? I don't think so. Nathan Loeb Jr. and Richard Loeb, self-confessed slayers of 14-year-old Robert Franks with their guards in Judge Caverly's classroom. Wow. 1924. This is a 1924 book. Wow. This is another one I would actually read. It's an interesting story. And it was modernized and updated. Story of people like them in the Sandra Bullock movie, I remember. You know, they're like, we just wanted to see if we could do it. But they're such nice boys. No, they're not. I'll put these back, but there's still a bunch in there. This might be a tricky section. I don't really want to... See here. Still quite a few more. Yeah, we'll get to those. Yeah, if anyone wants any of these, hit me up. I'll feature maybe the best ones at the end of the videos. Like, someone should get this one. But it's cool to look at old books. It's a little different than looking at other books. There's another element added to it. The element of the object itself and what it does, you know, brings you back to that time. You can literally smell it. When you smell something, you take small pieces of it into yourself. You ingest them. You become the books. You merge with the books. You are the books. You can see all time. You know how it goes. It's just also fun to look and hang out with cool old stuff, you know. Look at and hang out with. That 1851 one is so old. That de Tocqueville, that's crazy. 1894 one is, 93 one is interesting to me too. It's like, how does this old stuff keep kicking around? But then it doesn't. I mean, you can read accounts of Native Americans in the 1800s riding with Spanish armor on from the 15 and 1600s still. Stuff can only kick around so long. But I think that's always so interesting that we're not just always in one time. We're in a time that's in the aftermaths of all these times. It's crazy and cool. Like, I've met a couple of notable people that are like, oh yeah, I knew someone that was in the Civil War, my grandfather. I mean, that's wild. I mean, I grew up around people that had been born in the 1800s. In the 1980s, they were still around. Like my dad's adopted parents, 1899 and 1896. That's crazy. But they seemed like it. In fact, I'm pretty sure they were animatronic when I knew them. They were very old. Pretty sure they were Jim Henson maintained. Would you like a bowl of dust, boy? It nourishes us. I'm sure it does. Old stuff is cool. Maybe a cool collection someday, if I ever hit the big time, would be like a book from every century as far back as I could go. That would be cool. Displayed and preserved in some way. It'd be an interesting museum topic. Maybe it would become that. It's wild how Canada has its own history. Any true crime freaks want the Leopold and Loeb book out there, or like expert researchers in them. I'll probably put that tag on this video. De Tocqueville, 174-year-old de Tocqueville, crazy. Colette Sartre. I don't know. Some of these are pretty cool. Old English books. Those are, yeah. I could see making a bid on like a collection of them too. Not so much bids, just offers, you know. I genuinely want to have fewer of these books in that case, but feel like they should be with somebody that values them. I don't like to just put antique books in the free box all the time. I did get rid of a lot in the Purge, getting rid of 2/3 of my collection back in the day. Moving out of that house. All right, to be continued. Thanks for watching, everybody. Numbers aren't exactly growing, but I don't care. 300 is awesome. That's great. That's you know, I'm finding this very satisfying. I'm going through all my books. The channel itself is going to be this like huge collection of like you know, informational material that I could do something with. Documentaries or an edited show or something written, you know, quoted from everything. An essay at least. I don't know. I'm enjoying it. And it's fun to like meet a little community of book people. Maybe I'll do an episode where I read everyone's comments and respond to them. And that'd be kind of fun. And there's like enough now. I could do that probably. Anyway, all right, I got a piece of writing to work on. I got to just focus and do it. My head is so not in writing local small stories right now. But what is it in? I don't know. I'm a dedicated writer though, and I'll get it done. I always do. Sometimes skidding into deadlines, but nobody knows. Here's another big piece of gypsum from that mine. Haspe. So cool. I literally ran this through the dishwasher. Maybe I should not have done that. May have dulled it a little bit, but it kind of cleaned it up a lot. Back in the day when I had a dishwasher. My daughter Willow was going to do a YouTube channel where she did makeovers on things she found. It was going to be like a combination of mudlarking and Mariah Elizabeth. I still think it's a great idea. This is one of the things she made preparing for that. Then she decided she didn't want to. Come on, Willow. All right, we'll get to these next. Thanks for looking at my antique books with me, everybody. And this is going to continue. I think antique books are interesting to look at. If you have any questions, right, like I didn't show some part of them, let me know. We had all that digressive stuff about this stuff, but it's all connected. It's all the past. You know? Someday reading will be just laser scanning something with your mind. Or taking a weird vitamin that's full of nanotech. I gotta figure out how to get these leaves out of these papers, but, you know, do something with that. All right. Well. Take care, everybody. Thanks for making talking to myself feel a little less lonely and a little less crazy. Because I'm not talking to myself, I'm talking to y'all. Other people who also think books are cool, because they are. I mean, what's cooler than the collected knowledge and experience and ideas of humans captured and perpetuated across the generations in endless chains and conversations? It's so cool. It's the human soul expressed. It's beautiful stuff. Books! And we appreciate the medium along the way. Desert glass is so cool. But it is lead. I could actually use a pumice stone, honestly. That would be old school if I actually use this. I don't remember where I got it or what its significance is. Scrub the bathtub with it. Why not? Life. Should get some dinner. All right. Take care, everybody. Glad to know you're out there. You know, I don't know. Always remember Buddy and his chums.